Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going deep on Evernode. Evernode is, well, think of it kind of like a supercharged collaborative coding space,
Yeah.
but specifically for Web3.
Yeah.
We're going to break down exactly what it is
Yeah.
and all the reasons why it's got everyone so excited.
Yeah, it's definitely shaking things up. It really tackles a lot of the barriers that developers face in Web3.
Yeah, for sure. Like the first thing that really stood out to me is that there's no upfront cost for hardware. Like you don't need to go out and buy all this expensive equipment just to get started.
Right, and that's a really big deal, especially for new developers. I mean, traditionally, you'd need pretty powerful hardware to run a blockchain node, and Evernode completely eliminates that barrier. So now anyone with a laptop and an internet connection can get involved.
So it's really like democratizing Web3 development. I love that.
Exactly.
And then there's this idea of unlimited scalability, which honestly sounds amazing.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean, like in a practical sense?
So it basically means that the projects you build can grow without hitting any roadblocks. So like, imagine you create this awesome app and it just goes viral. On a traditional platform, that could mean crashes and slowdowns, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
But with Evernode, the infrastructure scales up automatically to meet that demand. So your users always have a smooth experience no matter how big your project gets.
So no matter how many people are using my app, it's never going to crash.
That's the idea.
That's pretty incredible. Okay, so this is where things get really interesting to me. Evernode also has a serverless architecture, which I got to admit sounds super technical. But can you explain what that means for someone like me or, anyone listening who isn't a coding expert?
Sure. So basically, it means that you don't have to worry about managing servers. Think about all the headaches that come with that, right? Setting them up, maintaining them, troubleshooting when things go wrong. With Evernode, all of that is taken care of behind the scenes.
So I can just focus on building my app. And Evernode handles all the technical infrastructure stuff.
Exactly. It frees you up to focus on what you do best.
That's awesome. And then there's this concept of decentralized hosting, which is a core principle of blockchain, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it means that Evernode isn't controlled by any single entity. It's hosted across a distributed network of computers. So it's incredibly resilient and censorship resistant.
So if I'm building a dApp that needs to be accessible no matter what, say like a platform for sharing information in a place with internet censorship, Evernode can make that possible.
Exactly. Because it's not reliant on any centralized servers. It's very difficult to shut down.
So it really puts the power and control back in the hands of the developers and users. I like that.
For sure.
This is really blowing my mind. But Evernode doesn't just exist in its own little world. There's also this thing called multi-chain compatibility. What does that even mean?
So that means that Evernode can actually interact with other blockchain ecosystems, like Cardano, for instance.
Oh, wow.
So in a practical sense, this opens up some really exciting possibilities for developers.
So like I could have a dApp built on Evernode that interacts with a smart contract on Cardano.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty groundbreaking.
It is. We're really moving towards a future where blockchains are interconnected, and Evernode is helping to make that happen.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. For the developers listening, if I want to start building on Evernode, what languages can I use? Do I have to learn some obscure new coding language?
Not at all. Evernode supports most major programming languages, including JavaScript.
What, JavaScript? So you're telling me I can use the same language that powers a lot of the web to build blockchain applications?
Yep.
That's amazing. It makes Web3 development so much more accessible.
Exactly. Developers can use their existing skills and get started building right away.
I love that. It's like Evernode is the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh.
But we've got one more benefit to cover, real-time resource allocation. What does that mean for developers?
Basically, it means you only pay for the resources you use at any given moment, so it's incredibly efficient.
So instead of having to buy like a ton of server space up front, you only use and pay for what you actually need in real time.
Right. It's kind of like
Yeah.
your electricity bill. You only pay for the electricity you actually use.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So let's do a quick recap. We've got no hardware costs, unlimited scalability, serverless architecture, decentralized hosting, multi-chain compatibility, coding flexibility with support for languages like JavaScript, and real-time resource allocation. That's a lot of benefits.
It's a lot. It really is a game changer for Web3 development.
Yeah.
It's removing barriers, it's empowering developers, and it's making it easier than ever to build the decentralized applications of the future.
I'm excited to see what people build. So it sounds like Evernode is really changing the game for developers. It's making Web3 development way more accessible and efficient. But what does that actually mean for like the future of the internet as a whole? It feels like we're on the verge of something big here.
Yeah, I think you're right. Web3 has kind of been held back by a few things, like the complexity, the cost, the scalability issues, and Evernode addresses all of those,
Yeah.
which could really pave the way for wider adoption and, more innovative applications.
So by empowering developers, Evernote is kind of paving the way for a more decentralized and open web, where we have more control over our data and our online experiences.
Exactly. It's putting the power back in the hands of the people, not corporations or governments.
That's a really exciting prospect. I'm trying to wrap my head around the implications of all of this. Like, what are some real-world examples of how Evernote could be used to, like, build a better future?
Let's take decentralized finance, for example, or DeFi as it's often called. Imagine building decentralized exchanges, lending platforms, and other financial tools that are accessible to anyone in the world, regardless of their location or their financial status.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's about taking the power back from those traditional financial institutions and putting it directly in the hands of the people.
It could completely revolutionize the way we think about money and finance.
Right. And with Evernode's focus on security and scalability and resilience, it provides a really solid foundation for building these kinds of applications.
Yeah, it's about creating a more open and transparent and equitable financial system.
For sure.
Another area that comes to mind is decentralized gaming. Blockchain-based games are already a thing. But it feels like Evernote could take things to a whole new level. What kind of possibilities do you see there?
Well, Evernode's ability to handle complex computations and real-time resource allocation makes it perfect for building these immersive and engaging gaming experiences. Imagine games where players actually own their in-game assets, and they can trade them freely on open markets, or even participate in the governance of the game itself.
Wow.
It's about giving players more control and ownership.
That's a far cry from the traditional gaming model, where you're kind of at the mercy of the centralized game developers. This feels way more democratic and empowering.
It is. And it opens up new possibilities for game developers, too. They can tap into a global community of players, create innovative revenue models, and build games that are truly community-driven.
That's amazing. So we've talked about the impact on finance and gaming, but I can't help but think about the potential for social media, too. Could we see decentralized social networks built on Evernote, where users have more control over their data and their privacy?
I definitely think so. Decentralized social networks are already starting to gain some traction, and Evernote is like the ideal platform for building them. Imagine a social network where you actually own your data. You control what you see, and you're not subject to the whims of algorithms or censorship.
It's like we're finally taking back control of our online experience.
Exactly. It's about creating a more open and democratic and user-centric social media experience.
It sounds like Evernote has the potential to disrupt a lot of industries and like fundamentally change the way we interact with the internet.
It does, and I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible here. It's really exciting to think about all the innovative applications that developers will create as they start to explore the full potential of this platform.
So if I'm a developer listening to this and I'm like totally fired up to start building on Evernote, what should I do? Where do I begin?
Well, the Evernote community is incredibly welcoming and supportive. I would definitely recommend checking out their Telegram group. It's a great place to connect with other developers, ask questions, and learn from each other.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but the community of people who are building it and supporting
All
it.
right, it's a really amazing resource for anyone who wants to get involved.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah, the Evernote community is truly passionate about building a more decentralized and equitable future. And they're incredibly helpful and welcoming to newcomers.
Yeah, it sounds like they're not just building applications, they're building a movement.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about more than just lines of code. It's about creating a better future for everyone.
As we've been talking about all this, it's made me think about how Evernote could impact content creation and digital ownership.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Evernote's decentralized nature. And, its ability to facilitate those secure and transparent transactions could definitely revolutionize the way we create and share and even monetize digital content.
Yeah, exactly. Like imagine a world where artists and musicians and writers, creators of all kinds, could use Evernote to build platforms that give them way more control over their work. They could bypass those traditional intermediaries.
Yeah.
and connect directly with their audience.
Right. And with things like real-time resource allocation and multi-chain compatibility, they could build these incredibly efficient and flexible platforms that are tailored to their specific needs. They could even integrate with other blockchain ecosystems to create totally new models for content distribution and monetization.
It's like taking the power back from the big tech platforms and putting it directly into the hands of the creators.
It's about creating a more equitable and sustainable ecosystem for creators, where they're fairly compensated for their work and have more control over their creative destinies.
We've been talking about Evernode as this platform for building dApps, but it feels like it's so much more than that. It's like this tool for building a better future, a more equitable and decentralized internet, where everyone has the opportunity to participate and thrive.
I totally agree. It's about empowering individuals, fostering innovation, and building a future where technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
So if someone's listening to this and they want to be a part of that future, they want to join this movement and start building on Evernode, where should they go?
The Evernode community on Telegram is a great place to start. It's a really welcoming and supportive group of developers and creators and enthusiasts who are all passionate about building a better future with Evernode.
So it's more than just a technical platform. It's a community of like-minded individuals working towards a common goal.
Exactly. It's about collaboration, shared learning, and building something truly extraordinary together.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. To everyone listening out there, whether you're a seasoned developer or a budding entrepreneur, or just someone who's curious about the future of the internet, I encourage you to check out Evernode. It might just change the way you think about technology and its potential to shape our world.
It's an invitation to dream big, to push the boundaries of what's possible, and to build a future that we can all be proud of.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Evernode. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep building the future.